Hello, hello. Hey, Carrie. Oh, perfect. TJ's getting on. Emily. This will be a good one. Okay. Way to mute me, Matt. Gosh.
I literally was clicking to minimize it so I could put you up on the TV, and then I don't know what happened. Sorry.
Like Matt,
100% my fault.
Matt, the co-host, muted you. Rude. I was talking.
Definitely did not do that on purpose. Sorry.
Um, I think we have a new agent getting on as well. Yep, here she is. Perfect. Okay. All right, let's check in accountability wise real quick. Emily, you want to get us started? How are things with you? Can you hear me, Emily? No. Carrie, you want to go?
She can go.
So long since
So,
we've talked.
huh?
I said so long since we've talked.
I know. Um, so I've just been I paid for a 3-hour short sale class, and I was doing that since I talked to you on the phone to kind of finish that up. About 72% of the way done. And then I'm waiting to hear back from my sellers about what they found out. Um, in the meantime, with a buyer that I have that was a referral from my agent finder, I've been she's been, or they've been very busy, and so I've just been waiting to hear back from them. They have the paperwork. They've had it for like a week, the buyer agency contract, just waiting for them to sign it. Sounds like that they might not buy until August or something anyway, so it's not
Okay.
that
Buyer.
urgent, but
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at right now. Trying to learn as much as I can for those two things.
Awesome. Shelly, I see you're driving. If you're in a safe spot to communicate, you can. Otherwise, don't worry about it. And Lonnie, how's everything with you? How's your weekend?
Hey Mara, everything is going good. Sorry.
Okay.
Um, everything's going good. I'm just trying to still figure out where I can find that person still. So still doing that. I was able to contact the agent up in Phoenix and maybe he's gonna get me her phone number or
Oh,
send
okay.
a message to her and then have her contact me, but we'll see.
Perfect.
Yes.
Little investigator. Okay, and you're following up with your other several leads?
Yes, I am. I also need to look into the other lead. She needs to see it. I think she still needs to update the title
Okay.
on her behalf because I think the previous owner passed away. So we need to figure out how we're gonna do that. So I was gonna reach out to Kelly because I just got that information from her.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Excellent. Okay, well, I will not put them on the spot, but we have two brand new Keller Williams family members on the call today. Vanessa and TJ both just joined our office on Friday and then Monday. So that's kind of what we do at the beginning of each class is just do a little bit of accountability check-in. Our goal is to be having lead generation conversations every day, ideally at least 10, and communicating with 10 people per day, whether that's via text, phone calls, in person, or direct messaging. So that's kind of what we're checking in on and any like contracts or appointments that you're going on as well. And then, without further ado, I think he just jumped off real quick to restart his computer, but he'll be right back. We have Matt Kendall as our instructor today for negotiating offers. He is out of the Eugene office and has been a licensed real estate agent since 2017. So, this is his sixth year in the business. He started in my productivity coaching program and um, became I see where I left off in your bio on my own script and then back to it. So he capped in his second year, made it into the top 20%, was on the ALC for a few years, and then he really focuses on continuing education and growth. He's very involved in the community. He's on the board for the Ronald McDonald House. He also does the Men Wear Pink campaign. So you may have seen his truck with the big pink tailgate on it. He previously worked at Costco for over 13 years before deciding to jump into real estate. So he's got a lot of customer service experience. And he's a dad to two amazing children as well. Are you still rebooting, Matt? Down the hall for me. He's also pretty techy, so has ran the ALC's like tech committee previously when he was on it, but he's definitely known in our office for being on the techier side as well. Vanessa and TJ, you probably don't have the material for today. Vanessa, I'll just walk it down to you. TJ, I'll email it to you really quick.
Thank you.
And then I'll email it to Shelly as well. Anyone else need it? Okay, perfect. Oh, my internet connection's unstable. That's rude. Okay, TJ.
Question. Is Emily part of our brokerage now?
Emily Steele is out of Sunset Corridor.
Oh, Plain.
Oh,
Call?
is it Plain? I don't see a last name. Oh, let me look. The image is
I
small.
only know her from a previous brokerage. That's
Oh,
why
yeah.
I'm asking.
No, she must be a guest on today.
Oh.
Oh, Matt Kendall's rejoining. Yeah, Ignite classes are open to everyone, so sometimes we get guests on. It's just the coaching group ones that are closed. Emily, do you want me to email you the workbook as well? Oops. Oh, and someone else is getting in. All right, Matt, are you back on and good to go?
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay, perfect. You missed your intro, but I did a great one.
Okay. Well, sorry, we got a 1994 laptop here, so
Not actually. I just said you were techie, so now you can't pretend to have tech problems.
I know. Well, we're working on it. Everything's fine. Sweet. All right. Well, where are we at? You already did everything else? Already talked about that.
I introed you. I'm sending the people that don't have the material for today a copy of the material. And so yeah, you're ready to take it. Oh, I probably need to make you a host again. Hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now you're a co-host, so now you can screen share and all that fun stuff.
Okay, so let me do the screen share. In a second here.
New student manuals.
I'm doing it through not doing it on the app, so just a second. Hopefully. Oh, hey, hold on. That's not gonna be for you. That's for me. Here we go.
Ta-da.
Now we're
Do you need
in
to print it out for
business.
you?
Did I print it out?
Do you want me to print it out for you?
Oh no, it's fine.
Okay.
You guys can see it, right? Well, you
Yeah.
can in a second. Right there? Okay, sweet.
Yeah, but do you have your instructor manual? Because instructor manual will not be the same as student manual.
Oh yeah, I have it on the
Okay.
laptop. It's
Okay,
the regular
perfect.
ones on what everybody you guys can all see the one on the TV and I get to see on the laptop.
Got it. Okay. All right, take it away. Have fun.
Okay, sweet. Thanks. All right. Well, how are we doing today, everybody? It's Monday. Getting back in things. Give me just one really quick second because I want to shrink this down for myself. Okay, so negotiate offers. Has anybody written an offer yet? Like, how far into this? How far in are we? Carrie, I know that you're already working on some stuff.
I just got my license. Like, this is my very first day, and I'm just diving in.
Dude, congratulations. That's badass. That's awesome. I love that. Okay, very cool. Very cool. Okay, so basically, the agenda is, we're going to sort of try and touch on a lot of things today in regards to negotiating offers. And I tend to wander, so just kind of keep me in check. But I try to teach this class from like real life experience where there's a lot of things. Actually, TJ, this will be a good example for you. There's a lot of things that in the course, statistics and situations that may or may not ever come up ever, but they want you to go through that and check those boxes. So we're going to kind of take some of that information that you're learning and then apply it and then give you kind of real life examples of, how it actually could play out. And then also just, preparing you for what you might see out there in the real world. So
Awesome.
Lead generation, right? Real estate expert. We're going to work on lead follow up and the transaction. What are negotiations, right? So price and terms, path of negotiation. We're going to hit the 3 Ps: prepare, present, and position. We're going to hit some tips. Then we're going to have recap and ahas. So the way that I do it too, if you guys at any point have any questions ever, just raise your hand or chime in or unmute or whatever. Interrupt me and stop and ask a question because I'm an open book, happy to help with whatever. So we can do that. Okay, negotiate offers. Let's see. Okay, let's go to the next one. What do we got? What is negotiation, right? So you're constantly negotiating with either your clients or the agent on the other side of the transaction, right? So obviously with your clients, either it's buying or selling, right? With the buy side, you say, hey, we have to kind of figure out a way to make this strategic. We want to make sure that we are asking them proper questions in regards to, for example, like a repair addendum, right? Like when we're negotiating with them, we're saying, hey, here are all the things that are wrong with the house, right? At what point are you going to walk away from the house? And what is just frivolous, like a outlet cover that you don't really care about, but maybe we can add it in as a negotiating piece, right? Make sure that I'm admitting everybody. So, and then of course the other side, or the second piece of that is the other agent on the other side of the transaction, right? So TJ, let's say you have a buyer, I'm the listing agent. You have to also not only negotiate with your buyers in which to figure out the best way to write up this offer, but you also have to call me and negotiate with me and say, hey, Matt, like, what are the things that the sellers absolutely need? What are the things that, like, other than literally just backing up a Brinks truck to the driveway, what are some of the things that they need? Now, here's my example, right? A couple of years ago, we sold our house. When I listed our house, I knew that I had to have rent back of up to 60 days because I didn't know where the heck we were going to go. But I knew that we needed to get out of that house and we needed to find a house in a different school district to get my son so he could play soccer, right? So figuring that out, I knew that there were some things that I was negotiable on and some that I cannot give up this house without that 60-day rent back because I don't have anywhere to go, right? And I don't really want to have 4 people in an RV for 2 months. So, right, common points of negotiation, and that's the Brinks truck is the price, right? Which obviously every seller wants to get the most money, duh. And then terms is the same scenario, right? Either it's, hey, this house actually won't finance because it needs whatever, right? Or it's time-based, right? I need you to know that I need 60-day rent back, or both, right? Some level of both of those things. So it's not just necessarily like how to write the offer, and like how to make yourself look the best in when you write it. It's what are you doing and what are you adding in regards to being able to figure out a way to both win for the buyer and win for the seller that you're writing the offer for, right? Does that make sense? This feels kind of short to do an aha already, but I guess does anybody have any questions about that specific piece? Those are kind of the nuts and bolts of the negotiation part, at least from the buy side, in regards to terms or money. Okay, we're good. Okay, so the 3 P's is prepare, right? Preparation is the key to building confidence and ensuring a smooth negotiation process, right? The second one is present, move into the negotiation process by presenting the offer. And then obviously position number 3, move both parties closer until you have full agreement. So let me have somebody read the first 7, prepare.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay, number 1, know your goal. 2, know your client. 3, think ahead. 4, set clear expectations. 5, be informed. 6, obey the laws. And 7, know the documents inside and out.
Perfect. So it's sort of a little, like a little couple of sentences on each one of these, right? So know your goal. So the goal, obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, is when you take on a buyer, right, is they obviously want to buy the home. So the goal is, how do we get buyer A into the house for the cheapest price, right? In which the ways in which they want to be able to take it, or they have the ability to take it, right? The second thing is know your client, right? So like literally right now, right, I have 2 different clients, 2 different buyers, that have 2 very different strategies, right? One is coming from Oregon, but they're coming from out of town. Another one's coming from the East Coast out here. They want 2 different properties in 2 different cities. One wants to be in Springfield, one wants to be in Eugene. One has very specific requirements in which there has to be a 1-story house. One could care less because they want the location, right? So each one of them are money driven. Obviously, nobody wants to overpay. Sorry, I got the hiccups. But figuring out what the linchpins for each one of those clients is so important, right? Because if let's say Vanessa, I take you and you're like, hey, I want to buy a house. I'm like, cool. And you tell me, okay, I definitely do want a 2-story because I love stairs and I've never been in a house that has stairs and I think it's just super cool. And all I ever showed you was 1950s ranch houses that are 1-story. You would want to slap me, right? So what that shows to you as the buyer is that I don't know you. I don't know what you want. And so part of the negotiation is making sure that as you're presenting these properties, right, it's hitting all of the check boxes for those buyers, obviously as best as you can. But knowing them, in which also, if they're like, here's another non-negotiable for me. When I was buying, I said, it has to be in the school district. My wife needs an office and we need RV parking. Literally, I had 3 requirements. Other than that, I mean, money, I guess that was pretty important, obviously. But other than that, like I knew that if I could get myself in the right neighborhood, there was an opportunity, even if it was ugly, opportunity for there to be ROI down the road, right? So now in a fun turn of events, know your client. I was both the listing agent of my own home. I was the seller, sleeping with the seller, who is my wife. Then I was also the buyer's agent, also the buyer myself, and sleeping with the buyer as my wife. So I had to wear a lot of hats in that scenario, in which, like, I had to both be the husband of the professional and understand all those things. So Not that I would suggest everybody doing that, because it was a very interesting experience, but knowing your client, right? I knew what the non-negotiables were, and I also knew the things that she really wanted, and so it was kind of figuring out how to make that happen, right? And thinking ahead. So anytime that I take a buyer's consultation, I literally just last night was on TikTok doing this live, and I was telling somebody, they said, hey, we need to sell our house, and we live, I can't remember where she lives. One's in California, one was in Alaska. And they said, we still have to sell our house, and we're not really sure where in Oregon we want to be. So I said, okay, so know the goal, right? They know they want to move to Oregon. They don't know where. That's okay. I met them on TikTok, so I don't really know the client. So we're kind of working through that piece, right? But it's the think ahead situation coupled with set clear expectations, right? I said, here's the deal. Give me a follow, shameless plug, right? And then I said, also, make sure to send me a DM, because I want to be able to reach out and contact you. And if it's today that you're going to buy a house because you just won Powerball, awesome. But if it's going to be something where it's 6 months, right? Like setting the clear expectation of, hey, we can start a search, we can have a conversation with the lender, like start planting those seeds, right? And then you can sort of do like 1, 2, 3, and 4, kind of all at the same time, right? You're learning, you know where they want to move to, you're learning more about the client, you're planning ahead, in which you want to make sure that even if they're not going to buy a house absolutely today, that you're going to be the person that's going to be like in their ecosystem when it's time. And then setting clear expectations to make sure that you understand what you have the capability to do, and also what they have expectations of you as the broker.
Matt, I have a question.
Yeah.
At what point do you have them sign a buyer representation agreement? Like in that scenario where you met someone, not really, but like through TikTok, for example.
Yeah. Usually I will do it once we get a little more serious. Like, I think that, and not serious like relationship serious, but like serious as in I make sure that they are qualified, right? Like I want to make sure it's not just somebody. I actually had somebody else who was like good on, and they're like, oh my God, I love this house. How much is it? Right? And I was like, oh, I forgot. I think it was like $400 and something thousand. And the guy's like, hey, I'm super excited about buying a house. I just went to the lender and I got pre-approved for $165,000. And I was like, oh, because of course I'm live, I'm on video. So I was like, oh, so I went to negotiation in my head where I'm like, okay, this person's not an A buyer today, right? And I sort of made some kind of joke about like, hey, we could totally make something happen if you have another $100,000 down, because I know there's some things out on St. Charles that are with Dev Northwest, like there are options, right? But that is not somebody that I would probably have sign immediately. Usually I like to have somebody physically in my office, like where we sit down, I meet face to face, I shake their hand, and then I pass them, then I give them the document to sign, and then we have the conversation about where they're at in the process, whether it's me for the first time they met me off the street corner or at Costco, or whether it's like, hey, we already went to a lender, we've done that pre-process, and then come back. And then for me, I have them sign my contracts for the buyers are a year. So I just do it for a year. That way, like, even if it's today, even if you're ready to go like gangbusters today, awesome. But if I know that you have to like pay off a couple debts and then you have to get your credit right in 3 months, then at least that kind of, then people know. But unless I get somebody in person, or I mean, like the person on the East Coast, I've never met them in person, but they're family friends, or they're like, they're family of one of my friends. So I had them sign just because like they're a real person. We've done multiple Zoom calls with them. Because obviously, what's the likelihood that you're going to meet somebody and then they're going to want to be able to see houses immediately too? Because legally you'd have to have them sign something to physically be in a house with somebody. So that plays into it too. Like if somebody was to, actually yesterday I was shooting a video for a client from out of town, and this woman just randomly just showed up to the house. Like I'm literally mid video, right? And she's like, hi. And I was like, hey. And I'm like actually going through doing the walkthrough. And she's like, I'm just going to look around. like literally this woman just came off the street. Like she just walked up, the door was open. I'm wearing like a hoodie. I'm not like in like realtor garb, I guess. And she just walked in. So I had to then figure out, how am I going to make sure I don't want to lose her as a potential buyer if she actually is interested, but also legally I can't. She needs to sign something with me to be in the house, right? So yeah, I sort of wait until it's a more formal, and I really feel like that I can count that as like a real buyer. If it's just somebody off social, then I kind of give them a little bit wider of a berth, unless they can like drop statistics where they say, oh, I actually went to the lender last week. Then I'll have them sign something. Okay, so be informed, which is just self-explanatory. I think that's just kind of like be informed about the process, obey the laws. That's probably back to the buyer thing, right? Is I had a guy call me one time, and he was like, hey, I just want to go look at the house. And I was like, I hear what you're saying, but legally I could lose my license if I just let randos in here. And because I need to have you sign this buyer broker agreement. And he was like, fine, whatever. And he pushed back, but I just did it for 24 hours. Right. And that was negotiation because it was hard to get him to sign that document. He's like, I'm not going to work with you. I go, that's fine. We don't have to be besties. Like, I just need you to understand that I need to toe the line, and then obviously know the documents inside and out. I mean, I think that one I always think is a little like fluid, because you have to remember that, 3 times a year they change documents with different little ads and updates and stuff. So doing your best to stay on top of that's key, obviously. Okay, provide. So yeah, asking questions, right? Provides you the points. Yeah, this is kind of all what we just talked about. I probably should have scrolled down first, but right, this is the leverage piece, right? Like, I know that if you're not going to buy the house without the fridge included, then we know that that's the leverage piece, that we will say, hey, we will walk unless you give us the fridge, right? A win-win. I think that's a big one, and it's kind of cliche because that's KW's like mantra, but win-win or no deal. We also want both parties to feel like they're winning, right? That just helps with negotiation anyway, right? It's like a buyer's repair addendum. When you know that you only want 3 of those things, but you send over an addendum that's 12, right? And they agree to the 3 that you want. Potentially, they will agree to like 4 of them that you want, right? And then they feel like, hey, I didn't give them 12. I only gave them 4. And then both parties win, right? So we always want to make sure that both sides feel like they're getting a good deal. Good for the business, good for your ethics, good for your heart. We just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing by people. Open-ended questions. What additional information should I know? Right, and this is for both sides, right? What's important about closing in 30 days? Is there a loan in which the loan needs to take longer, potentially? Right, like all of those kind of things. We want to make sure that we're asking these questions to the seller or to the listing agent, right? Do you have any other offers? Like, are we the only offer? If we're the only offer, I'm not going to give you a ton of extra money. I'm not going to write the offer for 30 grand over a list if we're the only one, right? Do they have to sell by a specific date? For us, I needed our house to sell first, and then we needed to close the next house before school started. That was like a non-negotiable. Like, I was going to make that happen come hell or high water, right? And so it was like figuring out how to do that to get us in. Bottom line price offer, right? So like, if they know that they're going to walk away, if they have the house listed at 400,000 or 500,000, but they're willing to sell it at 450, but they like 5.25, then you know that, hey, at some point, if we overprice it and it gets down there 475, 460, 455, right? That we're making sure that we're making those conversations to say, looks like that's the bottom line where you're going to go. And then otherwise it's not going to sell. Okay, let me scroll down a little bit. Okay, so here is, let me read this. Okay. Negotiation is a bargaining process, and bargaining is a give and take between two or more parties, right? Each with its own aims, needs, and viewpoints. Everyone involved is seeking to discover common ground and reach an agreement to settle a matter of mutual concern or resolve a conflict. Negotiation is where one of our W14C2TES plays a big role, right? So so the question is, which one is that, right? Of that, which one is it, right? And it's win-win or no deal, right? Because we want to make sure that it's always a win-win for both parties, that we're being kind, fair, and professional. So obviously that both sides have the best chance of reaching an agreement that's best for both clients, right? We don't want to feel like somebody's going to overpay and then be mad forever because they feel like they got, taken for a bunch of money. And then also we don't want the seller to say, hey, gosh, I feel like I left money on the table. Yeah, win-win or no deal, integrity in all things, communication, right? Seek first to understand. This is all part of that negotiation piece, right? Is we're learning how to communicate and asking the right questions, right? We want to give people grace, obviously put ourselves, our other clients' shoes, right? This is what I tell listing sellers is I'm like, here's the deal. My goal is to get my seller, obviously, the highest and best amount of dollars and terms that we can. But also from the perspective of the buyer, I have to think about this house as a buyer and what do they see and what questions are they going to ask so we can answer those questions before they're asked, right? So we're constantly, it's so much of this is negotiation, even when it just feels like you're just relaying information. So, okay, let's see here. Okay, who wants to read this one? We got, let's do this next one here, the activity. So somebody who wants to read the scenario below, and then we will come up with 3 good questions to ask the client.
I'll go for it.
Okay, sweet.
You're representing a single buyer. Your client is renting her present property. Like any first-time buyer, she's looking to get a guide, looking for you to guide through her through the process. The asking price for the home she really loves is $175,000. The house appears to have evidence of a roof leak, is listed as is, and is correctly priced. Your client would like to keep her payments as low as possible since she still has a number of student loans to pay off. She wants to write an offer for $155,000. There has been quite a bit of activity on the listing.
That's quite an interesting scenario there. That I don't know. What do you guys think would be a good question to ask the client? We think that there's probably either been a roof leak or is a roof leak. The seller doesn't want to do any repairs. Literally just wants to sell it as is.
Mm-hmm.
It's listed at $175,000, and she wants to write an offer $20,000 under asking. And now this is obviously subjective, but it says there has been quite a bit of activity on the listing. Boy.
I would probably directly ask her how she would feel if she was presenting a home with 7 people touring a home, whatever quite a bit is, at a $20,000 offer below. Would she feel good about an offer like that with so much interest in a home already? I would probably just immediately ask her how she would feel receiving that offer.
Yeah. I think that's a great start, because that's the biggest question on that, though, would be to figure out what her not necessarily to know it for sure, but like disc profile is if it would affect her at an emotional level, or if she's just a high D that doesn't care about the emotional piece and is much more practical and like analytical, right?
Mhm.
Like if she's a high I and goes, oh my gosh, yes, I would be offended. Like, wow, I never thought of that. Right. That could be a win in which it just sort of gives her that jarring push into like the reality of there's quite a bit of action on this and you want to come in $20,000 under. Like, is that really where you want to be with that attitude going in? And if you're going to go into negotiation, and how do you think that's going to go in regards to the listing agent and the seller talking about your offer from a practical and emotional standpoint, where you're coming in so low that right out of the gate, you think the seller is just going to give up 20 grand, right? Like that. And she may not care. Maybe the buyer says, I don't care. I want a deal. I want to get a deal, right? And at that point, I mean, I've written some offers that I'm like, this is ridiculous, and they don't get accepted. Like, you're just spinning your wheels. Now, the bigger question would be, in that scenario, what are your questions that you've asked with this, right? The preparation. Can you actually see my mouse on this? I don't think you can. Like,
No.
if you aren't seeing, oh, now you can. If you're asking her and she says, oh my God, I really want to get a deal. Houses nowadays in Eugene are ridiculously expensive. I think they're all overpriced, right? Like, that should be a light bulb to you to go, like, is she literally pre-approved for 155 and that's all she can do? Or is she pre-approved for 285 and she just wants to sucker punch and get some built-in equity because she knows she can get a deal?
I would ask her, I would tell her, first of all, that because of the interest in the home, we may have competing offers and 155 is a bit low. But I would also ask if she has the means to be able to fix the roof, if she were to buy it, because let's say she buys it at, let's say they accept at 155, but she doesn't have the money to pay for any repairs. What will she do in that
Right.
scenario? And I would tell her, look, the sellers are listing it as is. I doubt they're going to give you any concessions or seller credits for it. So you have to know if you're able to repair it, if it comes to that.
Yeah. And I think, and the other big piece too is, and obviously this was written a while ago, so there aren't houses for 175, but like, if that roof, if they're listing it as is, and this is always in general, this is what the broker would do when you look at it, like on the MLS, would be at 175, is that house or is that roof going to pass appraisal? Like, is it shot? Is it jacked up? Is it bad? Or is it like a situation where we think it's probably like 15 years in, at some point there was a leak, there was a repair done. She ain't pretty. It's an ugly roof, but if we can get it to pass, and you're right, if she has money in the next 5 to 10 years, or will she have money in the next 5 to 10 years, then yes, there might be some negotiation. But if it's not going to pass appraisal, it might be even a deal where you have to go in the reverse and pay like 190,000 and then have the seller put on the roof before close, right? Like, because that is not going to be a deal where it would even finance, right? Depending on the financing. And so that conversation throughout would be dependent on how much of her attitude is, I want to get a deal, or this is just all I can afford, right? Like, if really it's 155 because of the fact that like she comes to you and goes, that's all the money I got because this student loan situation is out of control. Like, I owe $70,000, and I'm going to pay on it forever, and my payments are higher because it was a balloon. You know what I mean? Like those sort of intangibles in this situation is taking that into consideration, where the clarifying questions, there could be 100 of them, right? Is to like keep going down that vein where you're asking where that is. And then the other thing too would be, what is the actual definition of this activity, right? Is called a listing agent, right? And say, hey, are you getting action as in you're getting a ton of people coming through? Or is your action like you have 6 offers, right? Because if you got 6 offers, you might be the nicest lady on the planet, but this is not the house for her. because it's going to go for 195 or 200, right? If they say, oh my gosh, we've had so much activity, there's been, 77 saves on Zillow and everybody loves it, right? But you have no offers, then now we ask a different level of questions like, oh, you might actually get that 155 depending on, or maybe you say, hey, meet me in the middle. If you think that's too much, this is what you need because of school loans. Can you pick up half a shift at work, right? And can we write it for 165, right? Like sort of figuring that piece out can make or break, right? And that's true across the board. That's true. I mean, up to $1 million home, right? Like the bumps are just different, right? Instead of $1 million listing going for 800,000, maybe you say, hey, write the offer for 9.25, and they feel like they're only giving up 75. You're only coming up, 125, and then it's a win. But yeah, those are good questions because I think you don't have a landlord, to fix that. So you're right. If she's 22 and just graduated college and can't afford a $22,000, this is probably not that big of a house, but $17,000 roof. And even if she could, then you have a payment on top of that, which means that it's then that 155 number is going to have to be even lower because it'll be another $400 a month for the roof financed. So yeah, those are good. Nice work.
So my daughter was crying, so I'm not sure if someone mentioned this, but a clarifying question that you could potentially ask, because a lot of times I notice some people will get fixed on just the number and not the monthly payments. And so one of the questions that I could possibly ask the client is, have you talked to your lender to see what the price difference per month would be for that $20,000, or are you just looking at the $20,000?
Yeah, and that's actually a really good. Carrie, that's great. Good job. Good job. Because that's a good point too, right? Is that sometimes people say, oh my gosh, it's $20,000. That's a ton, right? Which, yeah, it is a lot, especially percentage wise. But is it $20,000? Is that going to be another $400 a month? It's not. But let's say it was, then yes, that makes a difference, right? But if it's only going to be like $28 a month, then is that really the number that you have to be at, or are we just still looking for a deal? And not only that, there are other things too, where you say, okay, you want to write the offer at 155. Well, how about this? How about we write the offer at 175, but you ask for $15,000 in closing costs, right? And not only that, but then you say, well, now we have opportunity to have less cash out of hand or out of pocket, right? We also have a potential to buy down the rate, which means that your payment will drop, right? It's not, Carrie, you're totally right. It's not just like a $20,000 reduction. There are ways to sort of play chess instead of checkers, right? Where checkers is $20,000. The chess is how do we buy the rate down so that over the next 30 years, that $20,000 difference actually makes up for itself, because you're going to save $70,000 on the back end, because for 20 of those years, you're paying less interest, or I guess a substantial amount of interest. So yeah, I like it. These are great questions. So once you ask a lot of those questions, and obviously there are other situations too with it in which other questions would be appropriate also, but those are some good ones. So present, right? So call the other agent. This is true always, right? You always want to call the other agent. And after you talk to the client, right, then you go to the agent and say, hey, I called Carrie. I say, hey, here's the deal. I have a buyer. I don't know that we're going to hit list price. And before I called her, I would look at the days on market, right? I would say, oh my God, her house has been on the market for 190 days. I actually was looking at one this morning that was on the market for 290 some days. And I was like, ooh. And it was only, the price was dropped like $30,000. I was like, ooh, 30 grand in almost a year? What's wrong with it, right? So I have to sort of make some assumptions. And then that's when I call Carrie and I say, hey, listen, I saw your listing's been on the market for 290 days. What's the situation? Are they really stuck at that dollar amount and they are absolutely unwilling to move? Like, are they literally not going to sell for less than whatever the number, XYZ number? Or are they just unmotivated, right? Like, they just don't have to sell, so they're just going to hang out forever, right? Or now, are they really motivated because it's been 290 days, but they're just desperate to save every penny, right? Like, figuring out those things. And I think a lot of it, like this says, right, pay attention to nonverbal cues like pauses and voice qualities, in which, a lot of times you'll call a broker and you'll ask questions. And a lot of times they'll just start talking, right? And you sort of hope that they're going to give you those clues, that they're going to say words like motivated, right? Or like sticklers, or there'll be all these describing words. Because obviously, Carrie, if I call you and I go, what's your rock bottom price? You're not going to say, you shouldn't say, well, if you write it for $427,000, they'll definitely accept it. Now, I will tell you that I have had phone calls where someone says, if you write it for more than 426,000 and somewhere under 430,000, you're probably going to get accepted. And I'm like, wow, all right, you're still giving me a window, but we've clearly had a conversation in which I understand where your client wants to be and they want to get it sold, right? Like, and so it's a deal where you read those nonverbal cues, because then it's like, okay, we take into all those factors and we ask all those questions. And obviously you're wanting to be honest and you want to be upright. You still are upfront. You still want to make it a win-win. But you're learning about the other side, right? You want to figure out and make sure that you're asking the right questions, in which they're going to tell you where you need to be. And if they say, hey, you know what? And I've had this probably more times than not. They say, back up the Brinks truck. There's 3 other offers. Like, and I go, okay. I go, is there anything else? Is there, it is vacant. So, okay, they don't need occupancy. It is occupied. Okay, cool. Do they need vacancy? Do they need a longer escrow? Do they, like, how can I, if I don't have $1 million for this $400,000 property, what are the other things that your seller wants, right? And making sure that you're not also like over talking it, where you're giving up all of your sort of information of, oh, well, they're pre-approved up to 550. It's like, well, then they're obviously not going to take a low offer, duh, So, and like number 4, right? Listen carefully. What's important, right? Like I said, for me, like I needed that rent back. That was a non-negotiable. And it wasn't like we probably could have lived in the RV for a couple of weeks, but like, I don't want to live in the RV with a 15-year-old and my wife and my 11-year-old, right? I just don't want to do that. That sounds like torture for like the foreseeable future until we close on the property, right? Camping is one thing, but when you like have to live there, that's a totally different scenario, right? So I knew that's what I needed, right? And then of course, stay calm and relaxed. Obviously, no matter what they say, you want to make sure that you're having the right conversation in which nobody's getting heated because you haven't even gotten into negotiation yet. It's not even a deal where you're doing the inspection or any of that stuff yet. We're just trying to get our offer accepted. And then same thing, focus on the customer's needs, right? And give your offer the best chance, right? So making sure that you're showing motivation, that your buyers can't wait to buy this house because they want to live in that neighborhood or whatever those things are. Also learning about who the sellers are, right? Maybe you go on Facebook and you scope them out a little bit. You kind of do a little bit of research and figure out how to kind of make sure that if they're Duck fans, that you can't wait to, maybe you put in the thing that says, hey, my client can't wait to go to their first Duck game ever, right? Maybe you don't tell them that they're Beaver believers, right? Like these are things that aren't going to be in like a real estate course, right? It's going to be just figuring out what's best for all parties. And maybe they only want to sell to Duck fans, which this has never happened, but theoretically that could be a thing, right? And making sure to have that conversation. Okay. So, and then the other thing is position, right? So Acknowledge and confirm common ground, right? Okay, I understand that Matt is not willing to sell it unless he has some sort of rent back, right? Could I have probably done less rent back? I mean, I could have, right? But I know that I need something. I know that I need some time because we didn't even have an offer accepted. I mean, I literally put my house on the market and was like, well, fingers crossed. And I literally told my wife, like, I'm going to promise you as a broker that we'll figure it out. And like, boy, until we got that offer accepted, it was real nerve wracking to really hope that it was going to happen, you know? So making sure that you're affirming what the other side wants, right? And also what your own client wants, right? Ask what and how questions. You know, like asking like, how can we come to those terms, right? What are the things that can get us there? You're concerned about getting an offer accepted. Well, maybe we give you about not only rent back, but we give you a 40-day close instead of 30, right? Like, what would make that better for you? How can we accomplish that? Oh, we can totally accomplish that by just making escrow a little bit longer, right? Those are things that are easy to do. And know your positioning, right? The other thing is your conversation that you're going to have with anybody, with the buyer, with the listing agent, right? Like, if you're the only offer, right? It's pretty good position to be in, right? Like, if the seller says, "Oh, we have no offers," and you're the one that writing the one offer, it's pretty strong. There is some negotiating power in that, in which they don't have any other options, right? If they have 6 offers and you're number 7, you're gonna have to come in pretty hot. You're gonna have to come in looking good with all the terms that they want and probably above ask, and willing to take the freezer out of the garage for them, or take, whatever, right? Like, maybe they've got some trash in the garage and you just say, leave it there. We'll take care of it. Don't worry. We're going to make your life easy, right? You have to figure that kind of thing. And then know when to walk away, right? I had one a few years back where I wrote an offer. This was like right in the heart of COVID. And we were like, I don't know, like $60,000 over asking. And I was like, man, this is high. Like, we're doing it, aren't we? And somebody came in like way above our offer. And I talked to the buyer afterwards and I was like, man, not that I don't feel sorry for you. I would have loved to have like helped you buy that house. But, part of me is kind of like a sigh of relief of like, we would really we really need to be on the same page that you are for sure going to be in this house for quite a while, because I want to make sure that you have a product in which like that home will appreciate over the next 10 years. And if you're only going to be there for 18 months, that would have been tough to overpay for a house and then have to potentially list it in 2 years. Right. So you got to kind of know what your limits are and when you're willing to walk away. Let's see. Okay. Any ahas from 1, 2, or 3? Or any like other questions you can think of that you would want to ask, or okay, let's go to our next activity. Okay, who wants to be my partner? And we'll do somebody can be the buyer's agent and somebody can be the listing agent. Who wants to be my partner? And I'll pick whatever one you don't want. I'll read it and then we can figure out who wants to be which side. So choose a partner and select who will play the buyer part, right? So we'll do that in a second. Here's the scenario. The property has 4 bedrooms, 3.5 bath, and is listed at $350. Okay, good price. In a well-established neighborhood. Okay, so good neighborhood. Solid price, 4 bed, 3 bath, 3.5 bath. The house requires new carpeting, but at the first floor. Okay, not super expensive, but okay. And a garage door opener, so $500. 3 offers have been made, but we're all well below. Not well below, but they were all below the asking price. Okay, that's surprising. Other than the buyers probably see the carpet, and so they think that they're not going to get, or they want to get a deal. Okay. So buyer's agent, your buyers are making an offer for $340 on the house. They have been pre-approved. Awesome. That's always the first step. The buyers would like to close in the shortest time possible since they're moving from out of state and need a home for their family. Okay. Since they're leaving their appliances in their current home, right, out of state, the buyers would also like all the appliances to be included. So they want all the appliances and they're coming in 10 grand under. Okay. And there's nothing up here that says anything about timing. So this part is doesn't matter. Listing agent, your sellers have raised their family in the house you are selling and have many friends and family in the area. Okay, solid. Since their children are now grown, okay, they no longer need the amount of space. They're downsizing. Their current home provides and have purchased a home in Florida. So they already purchased. So there's a family in the house you're selling and have many friends in the area. Okay. They would like to give all their appliances to their daughter, who has just gone through a divorce. Yikes. Okay. They will not be moving until they have sold their current house. And although they would like to get to Florida as soon as possible, they're ready to stand their ground on the price. So these guys want in as soon as they can. These guys want to hurry up and get to Florida, but they're currently occupying the property. So they're going to live there until they sell. And they're willing to stand their ground. But there's nothing on here that says that they're not willing to expedite escrow. They just want to make sure they get the right money. Okay, this is going to be a fun one. So somebody chime in. Who wants to be buyer or listing agent? Or I'm just going to pick somebody, even though nobody's got their camera on. So
As long as you don't mind eventually, potentially a child screaming.
You're totally fine. 100%. We're good. Otherwise, somebody else can chime in. This is open to anybody. And yeah. So which one do you want to be? You want to be listing agent or buyer's agent? Because I already have questions for both parties that I'm thinking of.
I think I'll be the buyer's agent, although that seems harder.
Okay. How does that conversation look to you?
It seems more difficult just because of how predominant, like how not motivated the sellers are. And so I guess with that, I would kind of ask the sellers if there was any kind of wiggle room. I know that they want to give the appliances to their daughter, but I would ask the agent if like that was something that was 100% determined or anything like, like has that been talked to with their daughter, or is that just something that they would like to do? Is that something that they're willing to negotiate on, maybe like a couple of the appliances versus all of the appliances for the price? Do we know if that's it says they've been pre-approved for 340? Do we know that that's the max that they've been approved for? It doesn't really say.
I gotta tell you, the fact that you asked that question is great, because I think that in this scenario, like, yes, I want to know why they're at 340, and my question would be, you're right, is that all they're pre-approved for? A, or has this house been on the market for 3 months and they see that as an opportunity, or is it like day one on the market? And they also are trying, that's their first shot, right? Are they trying to do that? Because this piece of it is an inconvenience, right? Like, it just sucks. If you don't have if you don't have a wash and dryer, what that means is then you have to go buy some, right? Like this is a practical statement or situation. You guys are as the buyers, right? My situation is mom is emotional about the daughter who something bad happened with the husband and now the daughter is on her own, right? So mom is not going to care about your convenience versus the emotional connection that she can, and I say this loosely, this isn't religious, this is just, she's going to bless her daughter with this gift, right? So the tricky piece is you have to figure out I would say, I would confirm first from the listing side, I would say buyers are going to look at this property and say, gosh, it would be super easy to just leave them there, right? And if that's the case, are you looking for the item or the appliance in which it makes your daughter's life easier, or are these like your special fancy washer and dryer that like that you can give? Because it's way easier for having to go buy one at Lowe's and have them deliver it for your daughter and have them do all the work versus like unplugging it, putting it in the back of my truck, driving it across town, and then potentially loading it in, right? Like, or is this truly an emotional thing, or is this a practical thing? Because when you list your house, it's way easier for the seller to leave theirs, because 9 times out of 10, the buyer, if they sold theirs too, they're just going to assume the next people's set, right? So like,
You could also potentially, since the house requires new carpeting on the first floor, and that could be anywhere between $700 and $1,500. And then also on top of that, new garage door opener, which I'm not quite sure how much that would cost. You could potentially be like, hey, as long as the buyers are okay with it, the buyers would be willing to not worry about the cost of that in return for the appliances.
true. And maybe you just ask for, where is it? I just forgot where I found it. Right here. Maybe that piece of it, the carpeting and the flooring, you just say, hey, we're going to come in at $340 and you keep the appliances, but we're going to ask for a closing cost credit of, let's say, $2,000, right? And then the question is, from the negotiation side of it, is like, is this, even though this dollar-wise might be more than this, if they can give up that money, then this is solved by the emotional connection of helping the daughter, and this is also solved by the monetary that the buyers can either choose to actually do the carpet, whether it's like damaged and jacked up and there's holes in it, or whether it's just like dirty and they just need to get the guy to come in and clean it, right? Like, because maybe this checks the box, and maybe this checks the box actually less than the dollars. Maybe they're willing to stand their ground, but maybe they're only willing to stand their ground up to $345, right? Like, maybe they say, oh, it's going to be $350, but maybe you can come in at $345, right? And then also ask for $2,000 closing cost credit, right? Which gets you makes the buyer come up just a hair, but it also emotionally gets them closer to their dollar amount. It gets them the appliance, and it gets them the cleanliness, niceness of the new property, and then they can figure out what they're going to do with the appliance, whether they want to use that money towards the flooring or whether they want to use it towards new appliances.
It starts with the letter T.
Because basically you're just renaming it, right? That credit can be a practical thing for the buyer, and it can be an emotional, like it can be an emotional and a practical win for both sides, as long as you're calling it what it is appropriately. Does that make sense? I say it kind of weird, but
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or even if it's dollars, even if it's just the fact that like maybe she really wants it, and then it's like, cool, we're gonna come in, or maybe you just go even higher. Maybe you say, hey, you're gonna come in at $350, but because they want to be at the $340, they're gonna ask for $10,000 in closing costs, and then that checks the box of whatever quality of washer and dryer they're gonna want delivered in house, easy peasy, and it potentially covers whatever maybe they want, real fancy flooring with whatever, right? And maybe they don't even own a car. Maybe they don't even need a garage door opener. Maybe they're old school. Like figuring out kind of where those pluses and minuses are. And the other bigger piece of this equation too is it depends what the rest of the house looks like, right? Like do we as the buyer, do you as the buyer's agent, do you really think that it's only worth $340, Or are you walking in going, good God, 350? That actually, I would list it at 375, right? Because that can be another pitch to the buyer and be like, you're getting equity already. Or is it the reverse where it's listed at 350 and you're like, this is a dumpster fire?
Wish we
These
know
people
where
are
the
idiots.
information we got for the asking. It says all offers were below asking price. I wonder if that's something that the listing agent had volunteered. So if the listing agent had volunteered that, you could also use that as leverage, being like, well, what about escalation clauses
Yeah.
aren't used very often anymore, are they?
I almost used one this weekend, actually.
Oh,
I mean, but I haven't. I mean, usually they don't. They don't as much now because there's the buyer days on market are much longer. But like 3, 4 years ago, we used them. I mean, all the time, almost every offer. And that would be the next question too: is where did you get that information, right? Like, and I think that would probably also correlate to is it weekend number 1 and all 3 offers came in? Which that's a weird statistic anyway. Why would you get 3 offers and all of them were below asking? Like, does that mean that this thing is so overpriced that you're now the 4th broker that doesn't think that the house is worth that money? Right? Like that would be more surprising to me.
I feel like a CMA would help you in justifying your cause for the 340 as a buyer's agent.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really more for your information to the buyer, though, not necessarily like you can't. I mean, because if you did the CMA to get the house at 340 and I listed it at 350, I already know that it's overpriced, right? Like, if I know that I have 3 offers that are all below asking, I mean, I shouldn't say I know. Like, maybe I know in this situation, but if we're only playing one part of this and you're the buyer's agent, then maybe I don't know. Maybe that was a price that that the listing agent was like, gosh, I did my best, but they are unwilling to negotiate under 350 because they feel it's got that price, versus me that says I think it should list at 330. You know,
I feel like if it was a situation like it was the sellers, that's what the sellers wanted, it would be good motivation for the listing agent to be like, hey, these all 3 offers came back with CMAs and all 3 offers had things that supported this number. So maybe we should go with one of the offers instead of waiting, because the longer that you wait on the market, usually the lower prices you'll get. And so you want to get to Florida eventually, or do you want to get to Florida not at all?
Yeah. Well, and here would be the other question too: is the tricky piece is if you start taking buyers or CMAs from buyers agents, then you don't look like the professional; they look like the professional, right? Like if you're like, well, according to these other brokers that have the CMA, because what should have happened, I mean, I would assume in this situation is that you could go down a rabbit hole with what, I mean, you would need more statistics informationally to know what the listing presentation looked like, in which did this listing agent literally say, you should not list over 300. This is crazy, but I'm willing to do it anyway, right? Or is it a deal where they said, oh, I already presented or I already ran the CMA and there's 7 comps that show 365 and we're going to go with 350 so we can get multiple offers. Because if I were to show my seller your CMA, then they would be like, well, why didn't you show me those numbers? Why couldn't you find that information? Right. And so, I mean, it might help, but if you were the listing agent, it would be, I mean, you'd almost want to take that information and then write your own CMA, right? Because I wouldn't want to be like, look, Kerry and TJ are way better brokers and they came up with these comps. Like that would be the worst, right? Like my credibility would be gone, especially if I was to try to negotiate, and especially if I was to try and tell them to do a price reduction. Like they're like, why should I list with you? I'm just gonna call TJ. He's way better. He just showed me all these other comps, you know. So, I mean, these are always kind of tricky situations because we don't always obviously know. But a lot of times, right, motivation can show up in different ways, right? Like, and here's the other piece of this equation: is we don't know if they have a loan and they took out a second loan, and maybe that second loan puts them owing 342.
Yeah.
Right? Like, or I guess that wouldn't be right math for the commission, but let's say they owe like 320. It's like we can't sell for less than 350 because we are stuck. Otherwise, we are not. Otherwise, Florida will have to wait because we can't take a loss, you know. And so then, if you write 340 because you think it's overpriced because of your CMA, it doesn't matter what the CMA says; they can't do it, right? Because it just doesn't exist. Like you can't. They're not going to take a loss on the house and then pay you cash out of their bank account that they don't have the money for, you know. So, and that's also why a lot of times, like on my homes app, right, is taking a look and seeing if you can figure out how much they owe on the house, right, to figure out what that margin is. Because a lot of times, if I look at a house and I'm like, oh my god, that person's owned it for 40 years, they own it out, they've owned it outright for 20 years, and they've been taking loans against the house and paying them off for the last 10. Then I'm like, they're cash flowing the heck out of that thing, right? Like they're way cash positive. So they could, if they're gonna say that they are gonna walk away, and they're gonna be, what's the word? They're gonna be, whatever. They're ready to, they're willing to stand their ground at 350. Then they're unmotivated, right? It's not that they can take less than that. They're just their pride has got them into a spot where they can't. They're unwilling to take 350 because that's what they said at the beginning, you know. So that's where it would make a big difference. And even in a situation like this, right? Like maybe the appliance, maybe you ask for half of the appliances, right? Maybe you just, as a negotiating tool, say, hey, can you leave the washer, or can you leave the dryer, or hey, can you you go Google Lowe's and figure out what a washer and dryer set costs, and maybe it's $1,100, and you say, hey, can we just get a $600 closing cost commission? I mean, $600 closing cost credit, right? And then maybe they're like, okay, cool. Actually, that feels better for us. At least that's $600. We're still going to get a good deal. Maybe Black Friday's coming up and we can buy a whole set for 800 and it's delivered and installed, you know? It's sort of just continuing to, when you do this, right, peel back those layers of that onion and figure out like how motivated are they, and are they genuinely ready to like do that and tell you to kick rocks, or you know, can you play ball? That was good. You guys did a great job. Nice job. Okay, so negotiation tips. So just to make sure. Well, actually, let me give you a couple of highlights. So, like the most common points of negotiation, right? They fall into two categories. Is pricing is usually a primary factor, like we saw, right? 350. It's either financial, time-based, or both. Closing costs, closing dates, repairs, like all those things. Even if it's a situation where they want that 350, maybe they're willing to accept 340. If you tell them that, hey, we're not going to accept, or we're not going to ask for any repairs, right? Maybe you put on there that the inspection is for informational purposes only, and buyer will not ask for any repairs, right? Then they know that, hey, even if it's 340, that is the absolute final dollar amount that's going to happen, versus 350, or maybe they get 350, but then it's like, well, there's some drywall repair, and the sheetrock in the bedroom has a hole in it. Like, right, there's a couple electrical outlets, and you start nickel and diming. Maybe that's something that will get them to accept. We talked about that lease back appraisal, right? Earnest money. Maybe that's a deal. Maybe you say, hey, the earnest money is guaranteed. Okay. Just a second. I think I'm a little behind on this sheet. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Just a second here. Okay, negotiation tips. So yeah, be professional. Above all else, be professional, right? Obviously, our goal is to get a signed contract. So figuring out like, hey, what do we need to do to make sure that we are going to make this a win-win, so that we can obviously get into escrow, because that's the job, right? The job is to get it signed and then make sure that both parties are feeling like they're going to get a good deal. It's good advice, right? Control what you say to anyone involved in the transaction. If you create anxiety with your client or other parties, you're reducing their leverage in negotiations. So like, right, your tone, like it's set up there further up, is like, Carrie, when I call you or you call me at the buyer's side and you're anxious and like, oh my gosh, your sellers are unreasonable, right? Like, not that you would say that, but oh my gosh, 350 is way overpriced, right? Then like, not that I'm not going to still accept your offer, or not that I'm not going to like present your offer, but it just it's just not good for business, right? Because you have to come from value, just like I do. I'm like, hey, I want this house sold too, and I can only do so much. So how can we make this a win, right? And so we're obviously paying attention to communication and tone, right? I've had plenty of brokers that I've had to definitely, put down my gentle hat and put on my more negotiation forward hat and have conversations with that I didn't love, but it's because they escalated it. And so we had to, recognize that either this deal is going to blow up and fall apart, or we can put on our big boy pants and figure out a way to make it happen, continually refer to the motivation, right? So we're talking to the buyer and we're saying, hey, like, here's the deal. You still want to buy this house, right? Like, you ultimately want to buy the house. What's your motivation? Is it the neighborhood? Is literally everything in this house a 10 out of 10, except you are going to write for 340 instead of 350? Like, really? Like, you're going to walk away from this house from $10,000? I mean, if you are, then hey, you know what? Good to know. Now we know where we're at. But if you're not willing to go away or walk away from 10 grand, then let's figure out how really motivated you are. And if it's a 10 out of 10, let's get you there. It might just cost you a couple extra pennies, because guess what? There's somebody else that potentially has more motivation than you out there. Obviously not in that situation, because there's 3 offers under ask, but and then don't reveal too much, right? Listen more than you talk. Keep your client's motivation close to your chest. So this is this is always a funny one, right? Is if there's cameras, and you always have to sort of assume that there's always going to be cameras at a property, I tell people all the time, like, here's the deal. As excited as you are in your head and your heart, you cannot let your mouth show your level of joy, because all we need is somebody to be like, oh my God, this is the most amazing home ever. I love it. It's amazing. Because once that happens from the sell side, I absolutely know that I have so much negotiating power with you, because I know that your buyers are willing to do whatever it takes to get the house. And not that I'm going to abuse that situation, but it just means that you've given all of that to me we haven't even gotten on the phone yet. And I know that your buyers are losing their mind over how amazing this property is going to be, right? So we want to kind of keep it muted, right? Obviously, we want to show that they're motivated, because you also don't want an unmotivated buyer, right? No seller wants to know that their house is like, it's a 5 out of 10, so I guess we'll write the offer. But we also don't want them to know that you're, over the moon. And then don't be attached to the outcome, right? Like, you can't get everything you and your clients need all the time. Don't let it affect your mindset if a deal doesn't go through, if your client doesn't act on your recommendation, right? You find a different win. Now, I'm going to give you a real life example, right? When we went to sell our house, we were going to sell it. We didn't have it on the market yet. We wrote an offer on a house. And remember what I told you about, like, I was the listing agent, I was the buyer's agent, I was the husband, I was the, I was all the hats, right? And we wrote this offer, and I knew that it wasn't going to get accepted, because I was like, man, there's another offer. It's contingent. We were almost exactly the same offer, except, and I'd actually given up my commission. Like, I was really trying to like figure out all the ways to win this deal. But the other offer was their house was already pending and ours wasn't on the market yet. And I was like, shoot, that's a term in which, how am I I can't beat that. I can't, even if it's more money, it's not more money that's guaranteed. They're already pending, right? They already have a buyer that's like on the hook. So I was like, well, you know, we're just going to submit it and just hope for the best. And we didn't get it. And there was a long couple of days after that where our house was pretty emotional because we really liked that house. And I had to both tell my wife, right, slash buyer, slash seller, don't be attached to the outcome. So I don't know if anybody else is married, but if you tell your wife, don't be attached to the outcome, or better, or in layman's terms, calm down, it's the worst idea ever, right? So like I had to like figure out this way to recognize, hey, we cannot be attached to this outcome. If it happens, great, fantastic. If it doesn't happen, and I'm telling you this from experience, like there is always going to be another house that's going to check the boxes for the buyer, right? We love our house now. It's fantastic. It's a great neighborhood. It's actually closer than before. Like it actually checks more boxes. In my head, I was like, this actually is better, right? And so you have to not be so focused on winning the deal as opposed to doing what's best for the client. So it's hard. Again, from experience, I can tell you, it's a fun little dance to dance, but it will all work out. And also the other scenario is maybe it doesn't. You know what? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you spend time with a buyer and they just end up not buying. Then you can't win them all, right? So you have to sort of be able to kind of detach from that a little bit. Because sometimes it just doesn't happen. That's okay. Oops. Sorry. Let's see. Is there anything else that you think should be on that like negotiation kind of list right there? Like a best practices? This is sort of like the ahas into achievements. Like, so these questions are obviously here for you guys. So like turn your ahas into achievements. Do you think, like how has your thinking changed in the negotiation piece? That sort of is also coupled with like, is there anything on here that you think is missing? It might be now. What do you feel differently about? What was meaningful today? Are there any behaviors that you think that are going to be different, or actions that you're going to take? Tools or systems that you'll use? Before we're done, I'll show you a tool that I use all the time, and I can share it with you guys too. I'll give you a copy of it, but let's ask those questions first. Does anybody have any like feedback on what you guys think?
It's like day one for me, so I wrote a ton of notes, and there was a lot of things.
Hey, I love it. I seriously, and this is why, I mean, I love having this office because specifically for you, because it's day one. If there's anything you ever need to, like, call me, text me, come by, we can shoot the whatever, like, because I think that a lot of this is, just not like there are so many more things that are nuanced in real estate that I think, in fact, I asked Stephanie Coates, right? She's right across the hall, when I was first getting licensed, and I was asking her some question, and I forget what it was, but we were laughing because I was like, oh, what is this like meets and bounds kind of thing, right? Where it was like just very specific, and she's like, you're never going to use that. And I go, okay, I love you and I appreciate what you're telling me right now, but like that doesn't help. I have to pass the class. And she's like, I know, but I'm telling you it doesn't matter. And I was like, okay, yes, but after that, then what, right? And so it was sort of like a revelation, because I was like, yes, even in these classes, right, where it's like, oh, be professional, yes, but that is subjective to what the conversation is, right? Like, yes, you need to ratchet it up, and yes, you need to keep it down. Keep your goal in mind. Is the seller's goal to get the most possible money ever? Well, yes, that is the goal according to the sheet. But even outside of that, maybe that's the goal, but maybe also they have to move because they have a job transfer, that even though they want the most dollars, they're willing to take a little bit less dollars if they don't have to sit it on the market for 6 months, right? And so I think it's just like, this is sort of like critical thinking, but then you kind of come down here and you go, okay, let's do outside the box thinking, right? Where you think about, okay, here's my silly example, right? So I ran a maintenance business for 20 some years. So whenever I get a listing, I always pressure wash the listing, right? The driveway. Now, is that going to like single-handedly make or break the deal? Probably not. I mean, yes, there have been some houses where probably would. Does it change your emotional awareness of the level of care that the home has been taken? Like the type of care that the sellers have given the home the minute that you drive up to the driveway? Yeah. Right? Like if you see a moss covered driveway, there could have been a leak that was not fixed real quick, right? Maybe there's popcorn ceiling that was haphazardly scraped. Like not these aren't like deal breakers, right? But it's like sort of shifting your brain where when somebody sees one of those kind of things, they think that potentially there is some wiggle room in which that 350 price, they're not going to get it because they can't even take that one single day to pressure wash the driveway to show me that this is a beautiful amount of space for my RV, right? Like, and again, that's sort of a silly example, but it's that kind of thing when you're literally specifically talking about negotiation where it could play a piece into it. And all I want from the listing side is I want the buyer's agent to be floating on air, and I want the buyer to be floating on air even higher, thinking that this is the perfect house, right? And so it's a good class for you to start out on because I think that it's really like a good jump start to recognize both like the sort of textbook stuff that you learned in the class or in the course and the testing, and sort of also like the emotional piece of it where you need to know your numbers, you need to understand how the CMA works, all that stuff, but also the connection that you have between the people plays such a big role. So
You mentioned the pressure washing thing because my first listing, there were several reasons why these people didn't put in an offer, but the back porch wasn't pressure washed. There was like moss or whatever. And they made a point that their buyer really didn't like that, along with several things. But it was just funny that you mentioned that because that was one of the things that they pointed out. It's like, it's the back porch.
I know. And it really is like, I actually was looking at a property. Shoot, I'm trying to think of where it was. I don't think it was online. I think I was there. Trying to remember where it was. Anyway, and I remember thinking it was in a nice neighborhood, and it just had like weeds everywhere. And it wasn't like I knew that it wasn't going to be a deal breaker, but I was like, you have a house listed for like $900,000, and you can't. It's the Moss deal, right? I'm like, what would that have taken? A couple hours, especially if it's a back porch, right? Like these are like very simple, easy things. And the hard part is there will be buyers who will not write an offer based on that. That's a very small percentage, right? And this is the conversation that at the very top, right? Where when you're vetting people, not vetting people, but when you're preparing, or is it wherever it is on here, but when you're trying to figure out their level of right here, the know the client, right? It's like, do they have the mechanical skills to run a pressure washer? Are they already a general contractor, or are they? And this is not a dig to anybody. Are they like a very white collar professional that doesn't know the difference between a Phillips head and a flathead screwdriver, right? And both of those people are great, but they have wildly different needs, right? And you have to be able to appeal to both of those things, right? And so if I can pressure wash the back patio, it's going to take me a couple hours, easy peasy. And then both of those people recognize general contractor says, well, I don't have to do it. I have the tools, but I don't have to, right? Which is time. Versus the Phillips head flathead person that's like, I don't even know how pressure washers even work. I don't even understand the mechanics, right? Like both of those people win in that scenario, right? One has time and the other one doesn't even have to solve any of that problem. And so figuring out those things when you're both taking a listing, and also from the buy side, this is another thing, is there's been a million times where I'll go into a property that has like moss and stuff. I think I did it on my TikTok live last night. I said, here's the deal. Yeah, Actually, it was because the deck was all jacked up. The deck had like, it was like that Trex deck, but the subfloor or the sub whatever, like the frame was all messed up. Whereas some of the boards were like literally like bowed up, but it wasn't bowed up because the boards were bad. It was because the subframe, they didn't screw it in level. So on the live, in my video, I was like, here's the deal. I don't love how this looks, right? Like obviously, like I pulled the camera down and you could see across it, and it was like wonk, wonk, wonk. It was like all wonky. But I said, here's the thing. That's like 3 of your friends, a couple of screw guns, and like a chop saw, and that all can be remedied, and it literally can be repaired. It's not like you have to go buy decks. You have to go buy decking. You have to go buy all the things. Like it's literally you take the same pieces and you just change them, right? You just like change the height of them. And people on the live were like, oh my gosh, yeah, that totally makes sense, right? Because they literally, the comments were like, oh my gosh, it's so bad. And so I was like, well, now I need to negotiate with the world because people are on here, right? Like I need to come up with a solution. And my solution was, yes, I would have probably asked for some closing costs just because I have the skill to understand that it's not going to be a ton of money because I can use the same stuff. But recognizing that not everybody's going to see that, and we're going to need to be able to repair it, but it's not that complicated, right? So I'm just constantly like problem solving. Where yeah, if the buyer did come in and say, oh my gosh, that moss is back there, then you just kind of blow it off and say, hey, obviously you build this relationship first, but you just say, oh, that's totally easy. Shoot, you know what? Next week, once you close, I could come out and do that for you on the cheap, right? Not that you guys have to do that, but that kind of an understanding of the thing versus like a sloping floor where you put the golf ball down and it like goes downhill, where you go, oof, well, TJ doesn't work for Ramjack, so I'm pretty sure that we're gonna have to like ask for $30,000 or $40,000 to get that corner of that house jacked back up again, you know?
No, the problem is once somebody sees one, even if it's a small thing, like you said, the weeds in the yard, or once they
Yeah.
see things like that, then they're going to start looking for anything and everything else that they see wrong. And then they're just going to start picking it apart and looking
Yeah.
for
And
price reduction.
1,000%. And I think that is why I really tried to do my best to tell people like, and this is why I do the pressure wash part, is like I can control that. I'm good at it. I'm good. That's not even a brag. Like it's also a lame brag. I'm good at pressure washing. But like I've done it for so many years that like I understand how it works and I understand the beauty of it. And I also understand when the buyer walks up, they don't go, ugh, well, that's number one, right? And then maybe they see like this like a hairline crack somewhere that's just bad sheetrock because the guy who taped it did a crappy job, right? But like those are things, right, that Shelly, you don't have to go, oh, you know, it's probably fine. I know this guy Matt, he's a good pressure washer. That could be done. Like even if you're solution based, you have to acknowledge the problem that could have not been a problem at the beginning at all, right? Like you can't do anything about the number of bedrooms, right? If you show a property, it's 3 bedrooms, they need 4. Well, you know, it is what it is, right? That's the number. Or square footage of the house, right? Like now we're talking about major things, but if it's a little checkbox that I can just continually do all these little things, sometimes it's hardware in the kitchen, sometimes it's just soft scrub on the glass top of the oven. Like it's just these little things that I think you're right. Once somebody sees one thing, they're totally heightened to recognize all the other little things. And then at that point you have a laundry list of 20 things that they probably only would have seen 3 of them had some of them not been taken care of at the beginning. And 9 times out of 10, it's like pennies on the dollar, right? It's not Ramjack. It's like go buy a can of spackle or like get the pressure washer off for one business day, you know? So those kind of things I think make our jobs easier. And this would be the other thing too, TJ, especially since you're licensed now, is like previewing homes. And I do this all the time. I just did this the other day, where you go on MLS and you go find a vacant house, right? And you just look at it. Some of it is just for the previewing of you. And then potentially if you have a buyer, right? That's obviously you want to preview it for the buyer, but to get an idea of what's out there. Broker tour is also a really good one every Wednesday, right? Because you're you have the opportunity to go and look at properties. And no matter what the price point is, right, you're always going to find something dumb that the broker missed, or that the seller refuses to fix, or whatever the thing is. And that's just good practice to just be able to see it live and in person, and be able to look at it critically and say, gosh, sloping floors, right? Sloping floors, sticking doors. Like, is that going to be something that you think that the buyer will notice? Yeah, they're going to notice that when they're walking downhill in a bedroom, right? Like, which you can't fix, or maybe the seller doesn't have the means to fix it, but it'll sort of help kind of start that conversation with you, to be able to address that when you are front and center in front of somebody and you have to explain, yeah, you're right, actually, gosh, that probably is going to be a ramjack.
So I have a
It's probably going
question for
to
you.
30 grand.
I have a
Yeah,
question for you. I went on a broker tour just the other day, and one of the houses had the deck railing was basically completely rotted. So they had a sign that said, you know, you couldn't go out on the deck. They did say the deck was fine itself. I mean, because I had a hot tub on it, and I was like, well, that's a little scary. And they said, well, the deck was fine, but the railing was, which you could see, it was completely rotted. Which, you know, there was so many other things too that we saw. But how can they be, what are the liabilities to that?
Off the top of your head, you know the address?
Oh, it was South Salem. Boy, I don't think I kept the sheet on that. It was broker tours. It was through MVAR. It was the South Salem ones. I'm trying to think of which one that was. Yeah, it was bad. Which road was that on?
Because the question, I mean, both, it's two part. Like my sort of answer followed by, that's why I asked for the address, because I was going to read the private remarks, would be like that would be it would be a liability, but then as long as they're covering their bases by putting it on their private remarks, say, you know, do not go on deck, or
well, yeah, they did have that do not go on the deck, and you know, all of that. But you know, I even asked because HomeSmart is the one that was does the broker tours, and I asked the guy that, you know, that was over it. I was like, you know, how can they, you know, how can this be being sold without the you know, without them fixing that,
like fixing it first?
yeah. And he said, well, he said, all I'm going to tell you is, he said, an inspection guy is going to call this out. He said, there's just no way that. And I said, well, yeah, I get that it's going to be called out an inspection. I'm just like, how can you show a home where you can't go out on the deck and it's got that as such a liability? I mean, you know, and it's 2 stories up, and, you know, so yeah, it was just, I mean, I don't know. There was just all sorts of red flags for me, and I just couldn't quite. I'm like, I don't know. Wouldn't you have to deal with that with the people first? I mean, the homeowner?
Yeah, I mean, so, I mean, I'll tell you, I was in a house several years ago, and it was a hoarder house, and I knew that it was bad, and I put on these muck boots, like they go up to my knees, and I literally, no joke, stepped into garbage that was almost up to the top of my calf, and I had to walk through the house. And so it's not necessarily a liability. I mean, it is a liability, obviously, but it's not something where they necessarily have to fix it. The listing agent would just say, hey, like, we know that this is not going to pass an inspection. It may or may not pass the appraisal, which that would be the bigger issue that I would worry about, because everyone's going to call it for sure. But if the appraiser has an issue with it, I mean, those guys are so concerned about stuff that, I mean, even if you don't have the right spacing on the slats on a deck, it can be called out, and then it would have to be done, right? And so the piece of that too would be, is if I'm just going to make up round numbers, okay? Let's say the house is $500,000, and you know that deck is shot, right? Like bad, right? Where you don't want to go out there. A couple things could happen. Somebody could come in, write a check for $500,000, and there is no appraiser, and nobody cares, right? They're just going to take it as is because they're a general contractor and they don't care. they're gonna come in and say, I want to write an offer, but it's going to be, conventional, and I only have 5% down, and it is going to get called, and somebody's going to have to fix it. And 9 times out of 10, that would have to be the seller, right? Before close, which puts the pressure on the seller, because if they want to get the house sold, they're either only catering to cash buyers, right? Or people that are going to do a loan where there's enough down that they don't even need an appraisal, right? Which will be an appraisal waiver, which I think is usually it's 30%, it's a lot, right? So you're shrinking your buyer pool by not fixing that not fence, the deck. But it doesn't necessarily, it's not going to be a deal where you would have to fix it unless you are okay with shrinking that pool. If you're cool with only having cash buyers, awesome, go for it. You're also probably not super motivated to sell the house, right? Because you should fix it, right? So yeah, because there's been several. I mean, there was one, I was looking at one over off of Roosevelt not long ago, and yeah, there was no power. It was a whole thing. I was this is it, I'm gonna get murdered. This is gonna be a not a funny story. It was bad, where I was opening trap doors, doors up to the attic and stuff, and I'm well, I know that there were homeless people in here. I'm just really trusting there's no one else in here right now, right? And so, but that property, probably that house and that barn in the back are just going to get bulldozed, and they'll put a bunch of tiny houses and develop it as a multi-use, right? Because that's not a fixable thing like a deck. So yeah, the seller is just rolling the dice, hoping that somebody comes in with enough cash to skip the appraisal, or a cash buyer that's going to just be cool with a jacked up deck, But you're right, that would be tricky, because if you're taking your buyers, right, you're also rolling the dice, in which you have to make sure that there is no opportunity for them to walk out on that deck that could collapse, right? Or that you're figuring out some way for them to sign some type of waiver in which they are accepting whatever's going to happen if they walk out on that deck, right? Liability on both parts. Because also if they fall at the listing, right, that could be bad, real bad, and that really is the full circle negotiation piece, right? Where it's do they have the ability to fix it? And maybe they don't. Maybe they're just lazy, or maybe they're deceased. That's the other thing too. Maybe you have a couple who's passed away, and the kids just don't have the money to do it, and they're willing to just wait for eternity to get that money, because they would fix it, but they don't have, $20,000 to redo an entire 2-story deck, But yeah, good question. I like it. Let's see what else we got. Gosh, I think we're almost to the end. So yeah, any other? Oh yeah, tools. That's what I was going to show you guys. Okay, so I can give you a copy of this too. I'll give you an example. You guys can make one of these too, but I have somebody gave this to me years ago, a multiple offer sheet. Okay, tell me if you can see this. You might not be able to. Hold on. Sharing. Okay, just a sec. Window. Okay. Okay, can you see this at all? Is it really tiny for some reason? No?
I can see it. Looks good.
Yes, we can
Oh,
see.
you can see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not
Okay.
small. We can read it.
I don't know why it doesn't show on mine. Okay, well, it doesn't matter. As long as you guys can see it, it's fine. So basically, oh, now I see. Okay. So this has been really helpful for negotiation specifically, because I can plug in like as many. I mean, obviously you could just keep going. You could have 20 offers if you wanted. But the nice thing is, right, buyer's agent, the buyer last name, the expiration, initial price, contract. So in negotiation, the nice thing for me, I'm super visual. So like I like to see a breakdown in which I can show you like, hey, this offer, right, the 350, right, like 350. This offer is 340, right? So that's not 340. Be a real low offer. And so then it basically just itemizes it straight down, right? So it says, okay, the earnest money is going to be X. Here's the realtor commission from my side. Here's the commission from the buy side. What kind of loan is it? Are they pre-approved? What's the inspection period timeline? If it's got septic, well, and obviously this is just a Google sheet, so you can change any of this stuff. But the nice thing is at the bottom, it says, oh, hey, looks like after commissions, and then closing costs, I always say, like, hey, just so you know, it's about 1%. Ballpark, depends on the loan, depends on the things, but you're going to make about, right, $329,000 with this offer and $318,750 with this. Okay, again, those are ballpark numbers, but for this example, I do that. And then I say, oh, well, it looks like, according to this demo, the person actually owes $276,928, which I don't know where I came up with that number, but let's say they owe that much money on the house, right? And it's like, cool. What you're actually going to get a check for is about $52,000, right? And then in their brain, they're like, okay, 52 grand. Oh, this one's only 41.2 or 41.8. Well, obviously 52 is the best offer. Awesome. Now, this is the negotiation thing we were talking about before, right? This is the practical piece, right? If that family is going to stick to the top dollar and they want to see that 52,000, they're going to want to count every one of those dollars down to 72, right? The nuance is occupancy, right? Maybe I'm cool with giving keys at close, and maybe TJ, you need a week of occupancy after close.
Yeah.
Right? Like, hey, great. Then you change it on that thing, right? This is a big one, right? What if they have a house they have to sell? Maybe I don't have a house to sell, and TJ, you do. Well, who knows when you're going to get it sold? But I know that mine, I don't need that. So maybe my time is shorter, right? So even or the reverse, right? Maybe you're offering more, but you need to get your house just on the market versus me. I'm just getting a loan, bro. I'm out. I'm ready to go in 30 days. Like, we'll close in 30 days. And they go, you know what? We'd love 329, but 318, one in the hand, two in the bush. Like,
Yeah.
We're happy with 318. Good to go. Let's go. Right. So that's kind of nice. And the way that I do it is I share it with the client. So, I mean, on the buy side, this wouldn't really necessarily be applicable, but on the listing side, I share it with them. So they have access whenever, 1 o'clock in the morning, like whatever. Right. So this piece, and then the other big one that has served me really well because it has helped in the negotiation of getting the listing is I create a Google Calendar for all of my clients, right? So if we're going to go under contract on March 17th, and we know that earnest money is due by the 20th, inspection deadline is due by April 3rd, like all of that stuff goes on Google Calendar, right? So that at any point, 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 1 o'clock in the morning, whenever it pops in your brain, gosh, when's earnest money due? Earnest money is due on the 10th or 20th, whatever I said, right? Good to know. Excellent, right? The reason that I say that is I woke up like in a cold sweat one time very early in my career, and I was totally certain that I had lost my client's earnest money, and it was like $5,000. And I was like, that's it. I'm an idiot. This is the worst job ever. I am 100% going to owe somebody $5,000 because I can't read a calendar. And I was like horrified. And sure enough, I ran out of my bedroom. Like, I still can feel the panic. I remember it. Like, the blinds were down, not up. Like, it was a whole, it's like engraved in there forever. And I went and looked at the contracts. I had a copy at my house. And I opened it. And sure enough, I had like 72 more hours. And I was like, okay. If I had that level of anxiety, imagine if the buyer actually did that and they couldn't contact me till the next day. Or didn't feel like they could contact me, right? Like, that would be crazy. So I created that, and then I always do the Google Calendar. So it's Yeah, Carrie, I can pass it out. Sorry, I forgot about the chat.
Please and thank you so much.
Yeah. Hold on a sec. Sorry, Emily, I totally did not even answer your thing anyway. Open house class today. Yes. So anyway, I can share that that multiple offer sheet out with you. And then, like I said, again, I totally learned by doing. So I like to create this, and then I had that Google Calendar. That way, if anybody ever has any questions, especially with a situation like that where they're like, looking at if the offer looks identical, except maybe one is a VA loan, one's conventional, and then one's FHA, right? Like that also plays into it, right? So these little kind of tools like that, I just like because I think it's super easy to be able to provide value to the client, right? So pretty sweet. Let's see. Okay. So yeah, I think we're just about done, guys. So if you have any more questions, I want to take up all your day. So yeah, hopefully it was informative and helpful and all the things. And yeah, I can send that out to anybody who wants it. So just shoot me an email. I'll put in here. I'll just put .com. This is my link tree, and that's got like my email and my contact and all that stuff. I've got a bunch of domains, so Matt from Oregon is the easiest one. And yeah, and then just shoot me an email or text me, whatever, and then I'll send you a copy of that. And yeah, if you guys need anything ever, pop by the office or call me, text me. I'm happy to help. So
awesome. Thank you so much.
Right on. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. Bye.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
Okay.